Welcome back. Today we are discussing second part of chapter 3 in class ninth, that is electoral politics in social science. As you all know that in first part we have discussed about electoral system, why do we need elections and how elections can be democratic. In this video, we will discuss following contents. First of all, we will discuss definition, although the same we had discussed in first video also, but we will recapitulate the definition of election. Then we will discuss following points. First, electoral constituencies, reserved constituencies, voters list, nomination of the candidates, election campaign, polling and counting of votes. These all are the procedures in the election. What makes an election democratic? Independent Election Commission in India, popular participation of the people, acceptance of election outcomes, and challenges to free and fair elections. So these all points we will discuss in the second part of the chapter. So first of all, I'm recapitulating this definition of election, that it is a system or mechanism by which people can choose their representative or leaders at regular intervals and change them if they wish to do so. As we had discussed, that this is one of the most important feature of our democracy. Coming to our next slide, in any of the election, first of all, we have to decide constituency. So what is constituency? What is electoral constituency? Just see here, when a nation is divided into different geographical areas, when we divide our country into different geographical areas for the purpose of elections, having a decided number of voters in that area. This geographical area may be large or small. In some of the states where density of population is very less, this geographical area may be very large, but in metropolitan cities or in Delhi and Mumbai, this geographical area may be very small. These areas are called electoral constituencies. The geographical areas having number of voters are called electoral constituencies. Same is applicable in state elections and in Panchayati Raj elections. Now here is the point, very important aspect, that before proceeding you must understand that our parliament, law-making body, Parliament of India, that consists Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha and President of India. So here, why I am showing you this slide? Because this number 552, this number 545, here it is 250, 245. So these numbers are here seats. Here it refers that these are the constituencies in the country. So let's discuss first about Lok Sabha, that Lok Sabha has maximum strength of 552 members. Out of them, 530 are from states, 20 are from Union territories, 2 are Anglo-Indians who are nominated by President. At present in our Lok Sabha, total strength of these members is 545 and tenure of Lok Sabha is 5 years. Members of Parliament in Lok Sabha, they are MPs. They are called MPs, and it is the lower house of our Parliament. You might have heard that most of the debates and discussions about the important issues of the countries are discussed in this Parliament, especially in Lok Sabha, then it is discussed in Rajya Sabha. Any of the bill, if it is an ordinary bill, it can be presented in Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, but finance bills are presented only in Lok Sabha. So this is an important part of lawmaking body. Second one is Rajya Sabha. It is called upper house or permanent house. Maximum strength of Rajya Sabha is 250, 238 from state assemblies, 12 means those who are from different fields like sports, education, science. Our president can appoint these people. Present strength of Rajya Sabha is 245, 233 are from state legislatures and union territories where single transferable vote is used for their election, and 12 are nominated by President. Tenure of Rajya Sabha is 6 years. As 1/3 member of Rajya Sabha retires after every 2 years, so it remains in function permanently. That's why it is called permanent house, upper house. And the third one is the president. So all these seats which I'm discussing here, these are the constituencies from where we elect one leader or one MP for the nation, for the parliament. So you may have a conclusion that how many seats are there in Lok Sabha, how many constituencies are there in Rajya Sabha. You must know that Lok Sabha representatives, they are called Member of Parliament or MPs. Rajya Sabha, they are called Member of Parliament MPs. And in state legislative assemblies, for example, Haryana state, those members are called Members of Legislative Assembly, MLA. Second process of our election system is reserved constituencies. As you can understand by this word only, reserved means specially reserved for someone. Constituencies, as I discussed with you in the previous slide, that constituencies refers to geographical area of the voters. Our constitution makers, they thought, means when our constitution that was made, that time our constituent assembly makers, they felt that in India, scheduled caste and scheduled tribe people, they have been deprived from their rights from past many years or decades. That's why it is not possible for them to represent themselves in parliament because of the lack of resources. As rich and powerful people, they will not give them opportunity to win the elections. Hence, To resolve this issue, some constituencies are reserved in our constitutions, in our parliament. Currently, in Lok Sabha, we have 131 seats as per the data of 2019. To 131 seats, 84 seats for scheduled caste SC and 47 seats for ST. These seats are reserved only for SC and ST. General category people or other people, other leaders, they can't contest their election from these seats. These are specially reserved only for them. Second point is voters list. Voters list, as you can see clearly, a list of voters. Voters list, here it refers a list of voters. Now, who all are the voters? So, people who are 18 years and above. You can see here that 18 years in our country, 18 years and above can vote in election. Means this is called universal adult franchise without any discrimination, regardless of their caste, religion, gender. Those who are 18 years and above, their name is mentioned in voters list. They are given an opportunity to make their votes, and that vote is given in the voters list. Even election commission is issuing one identity card to all the voters, that is known as election photo identity card, EPIC, that has been introduced by the government of India. In case a person's name is given in voters list and he or she doesn't have this photo identity card, in that case he or she may produce his any photo identity card like Aadhaar card, ration card, etc. So this facility is given to our voters. Coming to next process, that is the nomination, because first is the constituencies, then we made voters list, then nomination of the candidates. Because you know that in our country we have multi-party system. There are many political parties, 7 parties are national parties and other are regional parties. The number is in 1,000. So all the political parties, they nominate their candidates for the elections. Here it is, political parties, they nominate their candidate to contest election who get the party symbol and sport, which is also called a ticket. Ticket is given to these candidates to contest the election. Every candidate who wishes to contest an election, he has to fill a nomination form. This nomination form is required and deposit some security money. So what that person has to fill in this nomination form? Here are some directions from the Supreme Court related to the nomination form, that those who are contesting election, they have to give legal declaration or this information about themselves. First of all, about their criminal cases pending against the candidate, about their asset, their property, their liabilities, and about their family details, about their educational qualification. This information has to be made public. Means this is a public information which is sometimes released in newspapers also. So in nomination form, all the candidates, here candidates refers to people those who are contesting elections from different parties, they have to fill all these details in the nomination form. After filling the nomination, next is election campaign. Election campaign process is very important, because without campaign or without meeting people, any leader can't win election. So here, before 2 weeks between the announcement of the final list of the candidates and the polling day, around 15 days, this period, a candidate, he meets or he or she meet their voters, they address election meetings, public meetings, political parties, they are giving support to these leaders through pamphlets, through banners, door-to-door meeting, television, newspapers, or another way, social media. That is very important nowadays, that all these leaders, those who are contesting election, they are interacting with the voters. They are meeting with them personally or through the social medias. This campaign is for 15 days, although it starts for many years, it starts, you can say, many days before the elections or before the announcement and nominations. Most of the candidates, they start their work before 2, 3, 4 years. So these are some of the famous slogans which are used in election campaigns in India. These all details are given in our chapter also. You can see our chapter. E-books are available in NCERT site. You can reference those books. These famous slogans which are given in election campaigns are, first is Garibi Hatao, meanwhile removal of poverty. This slogan was used by Congress party in Lok Sabha elections of 1971. Then Prime Minister, she used this slogan Garibi Hatao. Then it is Save Democracy. This slogan was used by Janata Party in 1977. This was related to the democracy after the emergency which was established in India. Third is Land to the Tillers. It was used in West Bengal assembly elections, that land to farmers or cultivators. Next one is Protect the Self-Respect of the Telugus. That was used by T.N. Ramarao, the leader of the Telugu Desam party in Andhra Pradesh assembly elections in 1983. Coming to our next slide, that is related to the guidelines by Election Commission of India for the parties or candidates in election campaign. Because in election campaign, it's not there that candidates, they can use any type of machinery, they can use any amount, they can use any of the method. There are some ways and guidelines from the Election Commission of India that a party candidate, no party or candidate can, number one, bribe or threaten voters. It is completely prohibited. They can't give any money or give threatening to the voters for their vote. They can't, candidates, they can't appeal voters in the name of their caste or their religion. They can't use their caste name or religion name in the elections. Candidates can't use government resources. Government resources, here it refers that government machinery, government people, that can't be used in election campaign by the leaders. Here a fixed amount is given, 25 lakh for the Lok Sabha elections and 10 lakhs in the assembly elections of the state. Means more than this amount they can't spend. So these are some of the guidelines which are required to be followed by the candidates during the election campaign. Here some model code of conduct. Code of conduct is also given by Election Commission of India, that no party or candidate can use. Number 1, use of worship place, any temple, church, any other place, mosque. Use of government vehicle, aircrafts or officials for their elections. Once elections are announced, ministers, they shall not lay foundation stone of any new project or take big policy decisions or make any promises of providing public facilities to attract the voters. Meanwhile, in that period before the elections, leaders, they can't announce that they can make this project, they can't show any dream to the voters. Now coming to after election campaign, when campaign is over, then comes to polling day or election day. Means this day is very important for the voters. On this day, voters, they cast their vote to the candidate of their own choice. They check their names in the voter card or voters list and go to their nearby polling booth. Generally, these polling booths are in schools, government offices, Anganwadis, etc. Election officials, they identify them, they check their identity, check their photo, their names, house numbers, etc. Then they put a mark on their fingers. You can see here on the top, this finger, this blue ink, permanent ink is marked so that there can't be any repetition of the candidate. It's very difficult to remove this ink. On the finger to cast their vote, a loyal agent of each representative or candidate is allowed to sit inside the polling booth. Generally, these agents, they are aware of the voters of that area and they try to stop any kind of mishappening or rigging or any fake vote of that area and ensure that voting take place in free and fair way. Then coming to two important terms. First is ballot paper. Although nowadays electronic voting machines are used, this is electronic voting machine. So generally we are pressing a button in this electronic voting machine. In this voting machine we find photograph or symbol of the party candidate and name of that candidate. So we can simply press that button and after that beep sound comes. So this is latest process of elections. In the polling day, earlier ballot paper was used, a sheet of paper on which the name of the contesting candidate along with the party name and symbols were listed, and election sign means that stamp was used on that. Now election process is over. Meanwhile, election day, polling day is over. After polling, as per the fixed date of Election Commission of India or State Election Commission, now counting day comes. All the EVM machines and ballot boxes from all constituencies of that area are opened and votes are counted. Agents of all the candidates, they remain present in the counting to ensure the fair process. the candidate who scores the highest number of votes from that constituency, he is or she is declared elected or the winner. In the general election, usually the counting of votes in all the constituencies that takes place at the same time on the same day. Sometimes it is in different stages. Result is also telecasted. It is telecasted in all the television channels, radio, or published in various newspapers. Here we have some challenges to conduct this free and fair election. First is incorrect, unupdated voters list. Sometime it has been noticed by Election Commission that voter list is not updated in that area or in any of the constituency. Misuse of government machinery by the representatives, by the candidates. Use of government officials by the ruling party. Incumbent party in election campaign, they use the officials, government officers. Model code of conduct that is not followed, as we discussed, that use of caste, religion, a fixed amount of money means that is not followed by some of the candidates. Excessive use of money by rich candidates and big parties. Some rich candidates, they use excess amount. In spite of 25 lakh, they spend more than 1 crore rupees. Even there are cases of bribery also. They give money to the voters also. Intimidation of voters by giving different reasons, by giving them bribery. Rigging on the polling day, sometimes by manhandling, sometimes you can booth capturing. These are some of the processes by which are the challenges in free and fair elections. Coming to Election Commission of India, one of the important organ of this country. Elections are conducted by independent and powerful body called Election Commission. It has same independent that the judiciary enjoys. Like the magistrates, they are having, like the courts, they are having independence and freedom. Chief Election Commissioner is appointed by the President of India, but after appointment, CEC, Chief Election Commissioner, is not answerable to the President or any government official or any leader, any party. It is not possible for the ruling party to remove the Chief Election Commissioner if Chief Election Commissioner is not giving any kind of favor to that party. Powers of Chief Election Commissioner. First is to conduct and control the elections in the country. Implementation of model code of conduct in the country during the elections. It can order the government to follow the guidelines. On election duty, government officials, they work under the control of Election Commissioner. All the officers, regional officers, nodal officers during the elections, presiding officers, they work directly under the Election Commission, not under the state or center. It solves the disputes and all the election petitions also. Sometimes if there is any dispute, so that is solved by Election Commissioner. Here, next point in this chapter is related to popular participation of people in the country, that in India, the turnout of voters that increased. As we discussed, that turnout is the total percentage of the votes which are polled in that area out of the total votes. So that has increased in last few decades. This is a good symbol that people are taking more participation in democracy. Poor people, they take more participation in comparison to rich. rich people, they are showing very less interest in the elections, but participation of poor is more. 1 out of the 7 voters is a member of political party in India, and 1/3 voters they took part in election campaign in 2004 elections. So you can see that most of the people, they are showing their interest in election process. People, they feel that their vote that matters in the policies of the nation. That's why they are giving their votes. Acceptance of the election outcomes. Acceptance means when they accept that whatever is the outcome, whatever is the result of the election, that is accepted by the people. Ruling parties generally they lose elections in India because people, they want change in democracy. They change the government and they want to bring new government. In India, about half of the sitting MPs and MLAs they lose elections in the regular elections, general elections. Candidates, they spend more money. Those who are rich and those who are spending more money, those who are using, you can say, rigging methods or having criminal record, they often lose elections. They do not win. So it shows that people are having good participation. It is a democracy. Electoral outcomes are usually accepted by the people as the verdict. And the last phase is the challenges to this free and fair elections. Although we discussed earlier also in one slide about the challenges in the election process from voters list to the counting day or election petition, but here are some other points that there is a use of unfair means during the elections. Both capturing is one of the major point in that. Bribery. Second, that most of the voters, they are given lust bribery by the leaders. Criminal record of representatives in our legislative assemblies and parliament. There are people who are having their criminal record and background. No choice to voters. Voters, they do not get choice because most of the time it happens that leaders, those who are belonging to one party, if they lose, they generally change their party, and voters, they do not get any choice. Small parties, they do not get popular support of the people in the country because big parties, those who are national parties, they get more support from the people. So these are some of the challenges in our election system. So you can understand that we have discussed all the main points of this chapter, starting from the campaign, starting from the constituencies, then to voters list, then nomination, then campaign, then polling, then result. Some of the other points also we discussed in this chapter. I hope you understood. Write down your main points in your notebook and learn these points. Thank you very much.